Brought to you by InfinityPeptide.com.
All right, today we're diving into a really fascinating molecule in the world of peptide research, CJC 2095. But here's the thing, this isn't just one simple story. It's really a tale of two peptides, a fundamental choice you have to make between two very different versions of the exact same compound.
And that choice, it really all boils down to one question. Are you looking for the natural rhythmic pulse, or are you in it for the long-haul marathon? Because this single decision, it changes absolutely everything about how this peptide works. Okay, let's get into it.
So first, let's just get the basics out of the way. What is CJC 1295? Well, at its core, it's a synthetic version, a man-made copy, of something your body already makes called growth hormone-releasing hormone, or GHRH, and its job is pretty straightforward. It tells your pituitary gland, hey, release some growth hormone. Both versions we're talking about today share this exact same core function.
But right here, this is where things get interesting. This is where the path splits, and a single tiny modification creates two completely distinct tools with totally different profiles and uses.
And here you go. This is the entire story at a glance. On the left, we've got CJC 1295 without something we call a DAC. Think of this as the sprinter. It has a super short half-life, it gives you a quick, powerful burst of action, and that means, yeah, you got to administer it more often. Then on the right, you've got CJC 1295 with DAC. This is our marathon runner, a crazy long half-life, a slow, sustained bleed of GH, which means you need far, far fewer injections. So let's break down that first path, the sprinter.
Path number 1 is all about mimicking the body's natural rhythm. This is the version you'll often hear called mod GRF 129, or more simply, CJC 129 5-no DAC.
So how does it actually work? Well, it's designed to be a near-perfect copy of your body's own GHRH. It binds to those pituitary receptors and triggers a short, sharp, intense pulse of growth hormone. Now, this is the key part. This whole mechanism is designed to align almost perfectly with how our bodies naturally release GH, which is in these quick pulsatile bursts throughout the day. And you know, when I say short, I mean really short. The half-life of this no-DAC version is only about 30 minutes. That means from the moment it's introduced, its effects are powerful and they are immediate, but they're also gone just as quickly. So what does that short half-life mean in the real world? Well, it's pretty clear. To keep the effects going, it needs to be administered more frequently. We're talking 1 to 3 times a day, typically timed to match the body's natural release windows, like right after a workout or just before you go to sleep.
But this is where the strategy gets really interesting. The no-DAC version is almost always combined with another peptide, like ipamorelin. And as researcher Hunter Williams explains, it's because ipamorelin basically works by inhibiting somatostatin. Think of somatostatin as your body's natural brake pedal for GH release. So by taking the brakes off, you allow CJC's go signal to create a much, much more powerful pulse.
And this creates an incredible synergistic effect. It's not just adding 1 + 1 to get 2, it's more like 1 + 1 = 3. You're hitting the gas pedal with one peptide while simultaneously cutting the brake lines with the other, creating a peak that neither one could ever hope to achieve on its own.
Okay, so that was the sprinter. Now, let's completely switch gears and look at the total opposite approach. Path number 2, the marathon runner, engineered from the ground up for endurance and convenience. This is CJC 129 5 with DAC.
So, what the heck is this DAC that changes the whole game? Well, DAC stands for Drug Affinity Complex. It's basically a piece of pharmaceutical tech, a little chemical modification that gets tacked onto the peptide with one single goal in mind, to make it last a lot longer in the body. The way it works is actually pretty clever. Think of the DAC as a kind of molecular grappling hook. Once that peptide is in your bloodstream, this hook latches onto a big, slow-moving protein called albumin. And since albumin itself has a super long half-life, it basically acts like a bodyguard, protecting the CJC 1295 from breaking down and keeping it active for way, way longer.
And the result of this technology is, well, it's staggering. We go from a 30-minute half-life with the no-DAC version to a half-life of about 6 to 8 times days with the DAC version. I mean, that's not just a small tweak. That is a complete and total transformation of the compound's entire character.
Now, a half-life that long has some massive implications. On the plus side, you get this continuous, steady elevation of GH levels, more of a bleed than a pulse. This means your injection frequency plummets to just a couple of times per week, which is a huge bonus for convenience. But on the flip side, it's not mimicking your body's natural rhythm at all, and any side effects you might experience, like water retention, well, they can be prolonged and even build up over time because that compound is just hanging around in your system for so long.
So,
Here we are with two very different tools. How do you possibly choose between them? Well, it all comes down to aligning the right peptide with your very specific research goals.
The choice gets a lot clearer when you just lay them out side by side like this. You're probably going to lean towards the NO-DAC version if your main goal is to mimic the body's natural pulsatile rhythm, or if you want really precise control over when those GH peaks happen and you don't mind a more frequent injection schedule. On the other hand, the with DAC version is the clear choice if convenience is your #1 priority, if you want sustained elevated GH levels for something like a long-term injury, and if you're okay with a less natural release pattern and the potential for longer-lasting side effects.
Ultimately, it's more than just a practical decision, isn't it? It kind of becomes a question of philosophy. Is your goal to perfectly mimic the body's incredibly complex natural systems, or is it to leverage modern bioengineering for maximum convenience and a sustained effect? There's really no single right answer, just the one that best fits what you're trying to achieve.
This explainer was brought to you by InfinityPeptide.com.